also see the visuals by going to anymeeting.com/radio-prometheus1, that's the number 1 at the end, and signing into the meeting that way. And this will also allow you to use the chat box, which is sort of this little box that's on the side of the screen here. You'll see it on the left. And that's how we're going to be fielding questions for the question and answer period following the presentation. So if you are able to join with your computer, please do, and you can participate that way. Again, welcome to this training, Grassroots Fundraising, and I'm just going to let you know about some other webinars that are coming up. We're actually coming to the end of a series of webinars that we've been putting together here at Prometheus leading up to the FCC low power application window. This October is supposed to start, I guess, next week, and we'll see if that happens, of course, with some of the government shutdown stuff that's going on. But so we're supposed to be starting next week. This is one of the last webinars leading up to that. Another one that's coming up that's happening tomorrow night, actually. Oh, I just realized this has a little typo in it. But this is going to be tomorrow at 6 p.m., so that's October 9th at 6 p.m. Everything you ever wanted to ask about low power FM and applicant support question and answer session. And the reason this date is here is because we actually have done one of these. We did it in the afternoon, and now we're having another one take place in the evening. And that's to give everyone a chance to ask some questions they still have about their application process and to have an overview of a low power FM guide that was developed by Prometheus and Free Press. And Candace Clement, who's the advocacy and organizing manager at Free Press, will join us, as well as Anna and Ian, who are directors here with the Prometheus Radio Project. And you can find out about other upcoming webinars, including the FCC webinar that should be coming up at some point by going to prometheusradio.org/webinars. And then if you wanted to review any of the webinars that have already happened, including this one, once it is completed, you can check those out at prometheusradio.org/archives. Just a little bit about Prometheus. The Prometheus Radio Project is a not-for-profit based in Philadelphia, and we've been around for about 15 years doing work to build participatory radio as a voice for community expression and a tool for social justice organizing. We exist to counter corporate consolidation and control of the media. Over time, the media has become less and less accessible to communities as corporations have acquired a bigger share of the media landscape. It is not in the interest of this small handful of powerful corporations to effectively represent, celebrate, and affirm the varied communities that we are all a part of. We need our own media outlets to tell our versions of history, to make our own news that combats stereotypes and speaks truth to power, and to create positive changes in our communities. For the past 13 years, Prometheus has helped hundreds of communities start their own radio stations. Today, there are over 800 low-power FM stations on the air, and this fall, next week, there's many new channels that are going to become available across the nation. This is an opportunity for communities to own their own media infrastructure through starting low-power community radio stations. Here at Prometheus, when we say community radio, what we mean is transformative for both listeners and media makers, participatory as in democratically organized with community involvement in the production of content, and affordable and accessible stations with multimedia capabilities that are locally rooted. Here at Prometheus, we are on the ground in communities across the country working with grassroots groups just like the ones many of you joining us today are a part of. We want to use the media to create a more democratic society, and these training webinars are part of the strategy to promote participatory radio as a part of building that society. Please consider supporting Prometheus, where your financial support today means a better media future. And please, you can visit our website to support our work, prometheusradio.org/donate. So today, our webinar is Grassroots Fundraising. I thought I'd just quickly go over the goals for this webinar, which also will be echoed by our presenter in just a few minutes. But we're going to delve deep into two pillars or principles of grassroots fundraising and GIF's political framework, GIF being the Grassroots Institute for Fundraising Training, to learn the nuts and bolts of creating a monthly sustainer program, and to understand how to communicate your impact mission and garner financial support from a broad base of donors. Joining us today to go over these points and present us with a lot of different ideas and I feel like a lot of inspiration around grassroots fundraising is Laurene Francois, who alternates between her first name and her family name. She's a resident of Oakland by way of Brooklyn, New York. She's a first-generation American and daughter of Haitian immigrants. Francois' passion for grassroots fundraising is grounded in a steadfast belief that people can collectively fund their own liberation and have legacies of doing so. and that mass wealth redistribution will start when people can openly have conversations about money. Laurene started organizing and fundraising at 19 as a youth leader with Fierce, and then became a grassroots fundraiser at Causa Justa, Just Cause. Currently, she is the training director at the Grassroots Institute for Fundraising Training, where she works with grassroots organizing and community-based organizations around the country, facilitating trainings and workshops, developing curriculum, and supporting the leadership development of people running fundraising in various capacities both in and outside of not-for-profits. Using popular education as a means to elevate the legacies of giving and resourcing in communities of color, she continues to work to make fundraising and finance literacy available and empowering to all. She enjoys going out, lounging with friends, rereading the Boondocks, biking, and playing ping pong. Francois, welcome, and thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Leah, and thanks for everyone who took the time to join this webinar. I really appreciate everyone making the time to reflect on how they can integrate grassroots fundraising in their own program and hopefully launch their own low-power radio station in the upcoming weeks so that they can tell their stories of their communities. So I hope that, one, I'll speak a little louder for folks to hear me, and also that out of today's webinar that people get some practical skills and also a framework about how to proceed about forming a grassroots fundraising program and some strategies about what are the best ways in terms of garnering financial support, getting income, and that income is reflective of the community that you're in. So, like Leah said, I am the training director at GIFT, the Grassroots Institute for Fundraising Training. A little bit about GIFT is that we promote the connection between fundraising, social justice, and movement building. We believe that how groups are funded is important to achieving their goals. We provide grassroots fundraising, affordable fee-for-service trainings, analysis, and resources to many social justice organizations based in communities of color. We specifically work with organizations in order to help them build a broad base of donors, and that's reflective of their mission and values. So some of our programs at GIFT includes our bi-monthly Grassroots Fundraising Journal, which is a publication of analysis, strategies, and templates for small to developing social justice organizations to use to start their own individual donor program or grassroots fundraising program. We also provide, like I had mentioned earlier, a training and consulting services. We have a Training for Trainers program, Fundraising Academy for Communities of Color in partnership with Compass Point, which is a 6-month, so it's a 6-month program where folks who are staff or volunteers of an organization or radio station, like folks who are attending this call, get personalized instruction from a coach and mentor, and also 3 days of workshop training so they can be more equipped as fundraisers and be able to use their own skills and experience to bring to their community, so that anytime they put on an event, anytime they proceed in creating their grassroots fundraising program, it's aligned to the values of their community and also aligns with their own personal values. We also have the fellowship program in similar aspects. The fellowship program is a paid residency program for people of color who are volunteers or members of organizations or not-for-profits. And in the same way that the Fundraising Academy for Communities of Color works to build and develop new emerging leaders of color in fundraising, the fellowship does that as well. And the difference between the two programs is the fellowship is for folks who aren't already staff. Some folks may end up wanting to be, but it's for folks who have a membership or volunteer base so that they can start creating a culture of fundraising within that base. Finally, we have our biannual conference, Money for Our Movements. It's a social justice fundraising conference that happens every other year that brings together over 700 grassroots fundraisers, development, executive directors, anyone who is paid fundraiser or not. So this also includes activists and organizers, and teaches them skills, frameworks, and creates a peer networking support of folks who are learning to resource and leverage their own privileges and resource in order to sustain a movement for social justice. So like Leah said, and why I hope everyone is on this call today, is that in this webinar we'll review three specific things. So one of that being how social justice fundraising principles and the political importance of grassroots fundraising, some strategies, specifically a monthly sustainer, the monthly sustainer program, and then some additional strategies for smaller to mid-sized organizations in order to create sustainable funding for your programs that fit your station needs and help promote your mission. And then finally, some practices to keep in mind in order to communicate your mission and gain that support from your community. So I won't go too much into the goals because Leah already said them. But again, GIFT works with the understanding that as organizations that are grassroots, that are based in communities, generally communities of color, we have a history of not getting supported from larger institutions and had to find our own way of developing and figuring out resources in order to manifest or make reality the needs for our community survival. And so we know that one of the pieces that we've done, and one of the pieces that we need to continue to learn from is fundraising and how to raise money so that we can manifest our visions into reality. Another goal is, like I mentioned, a monthly sustainer program, and we'll go into what that means, what that looks like, and finally, how to articulate not just folks who are on this call, but how to teach your partners, your comrades, your folks who are invested in you creating a station and you creating an outlet to tell your stories and tell other and your community stories out there. So in order to gain support, financial support from your community. So before we get into like monthly sustainers and communicating your mission impact, I want to start off with a framework of who should you be asking for money, some myths about where money's coming from, and just start us all with an overall context. So the first slide here says that most contributions actually come from individuals. So in 2009, and this was like during the start of the recession, over $300 billion was donated, and 75% of that was given away by individuals. 4% of that was given by corporations, 13% of that was given by foundations, and 8% of that was through bequests. And for folks who may or may not know, bequests are individuals who have passed away but have created their own plan given. So even after they've passed away, they're still given financial assistance and also invested in a not-for-profit. So what that means is that over 82% of money is given away, that was given away was by individuals. So that's much more than corporations, even though they have access to large amounts of wealth. That's more than foundations. And we bring that up not to say that we should not rely on foundations, but we know that a majority of our times when people think about fundraising is spent writing grants, when really there's an abundance of resources and money that wants to be given by individuals to support different causes and missions that they share values with. So just a little breakdown of who foundation money gives to. Foundations give less than 8% of their income, their wealth to communities of color, less than 1% to immigrants and refugees, and less than 1% to LGBTQ communities. So it is now currently 2013, sorry, wrong year. This number hasn't actually changed very much, so the majority of giving still is by individuals. And even though we are in a recession and cash is tight for individuals and people are living on less, people are actually giving more, but more intentionally about how much they give and who they give it to. So this 75%, right, this $200+ billion out of $300 billion that was given away to whom? So a large piece of where individuals donate their money was to religious and faith institutions. The sector that radio stations and nonprofits fall under is the public society benefit, or arts and culture, which is 8% and 4%. So why is it that religious or faith institutions garner so much financial support from individuals? For probably reasons that many of us think or already have in our minds, that one, religious institutions ask often, right? They build a repertoire with the folks who come into their service that giving is a part of participation. If not in addition to, it's the way you communicate that this is value for you. And also, they're not apologetic about it, and they share, individuals who give to religious and faith institutions share similar values with those religious institutions and faith institutions. So a lot of the times, or more often, there is the conception that we should only be asking wealthy people to donate. But those wealthy people who we want to be asking, like the Bill Gates, the Oprah Winfrey, like, we should, if folks feel like they should ask those folks for their support, I would say that before you start there, think about your own community. In this generosity chart, we see that everyone in multiple different income levels and class backgrounds donate. And actually, a household income of less than $20,000 donates, in percentage-wise, the most money than households that make 6 figures, right? So generally, we're told, like, we shouldn't ask our friends, our families, our neighbors, people in our communities, because they're too poor to give, that they're too strapped, and this is just a burden for us to ask, right? At Gift, we think that that's not the case, that when people are given however much they can and whatever amount they give is meaningful, and to take them, and this is going to be, I'll say this again during the political importance piece of grassroots fundraising, but that at Gift we tell people, and one of our frameworks around social justice grassroots fundraising is not to take people's autonomy away from giving. It is our responsibility to ask and to know that whatever someone can or cannot give, but if someone can give, that is a meaningful amount for them, and we should not take away that person's right to give. If someone says no, let them give their reason, and also let's figure out another way for them to be involved if this is an interest of theirs. So this generosity chart, again, shows that many people of different class backgrounds can and do donate. So the individuals, let's just get even more. So we started from macro level of, like, who's given, like the amount of money that's been given, where is it going to, and the household incomes that are donated. Now let's get to the actual individuals that are given. 90% of gifts come from earnings or income, so not assets, not stocks, not bonds, not CDs and such. 7 out of 10 newly immigrated families are donating. 8 out of 10 African Americans, 7 out of 10 white people, and the list goes on, right? So who are the people who are giving, who are contributing to the bequest, who are contributing to the 75% or $200+ billion that's being given out? It's individuals that look like you, that look like the folks you want to tell the stories of, the folks that you want to share, you want to collaborate in developing your station with. Earlier I mentioned that Gift holds a biannual conference called Money for Our Movements Conference. Here you see that one of the things at the conference is a peer network and also skills building training, so that folks feel more confident about asking their own community for money, and that people also remember to ask their community for money and not just look to wealthy individuals who are outside the community for that financial support. I believe that folks who are most impacted should be the folks who are directing and participating in the fundraising and giving towards your nonprofit or your beginning and sustaining of your station. So before we can move on, I just want to say, what is grassroots fundraising and what isn't it? So many times people think of grassroots fundraising as foundation grants, corporate giving. Those aren't grassroots fundraising. That's definitely a fundraising strategy, and those are many times institutional fundraising. What is grassroots fundraising? Grassroots fundraising is money that is exchanged, that is given from individuals, right? So some of the strategies look like mail-ins or crowdfunding platforms or special events like galas or bake sales. But grassroots fundraising comes down to one person asking another person for a contribution or a gift in order to support the creation or sustaining of a nonprofit or a cause or a mission, okay? So grassroots fundraising isn't about a sales or a pitch. You're not asking someone to buy into something. You're asking someone to share your belief and invest in that belief in the back end of a monetary contribution. Another piece of grassroots fundraising that gets believed in is that sometimes it's not solely monetary donations that matter, but it's also about how people can leverage their privileges and resources in order to make more connections and build relationships with different people so that they can donate or they can offer resources or do some type of barter in exchange, but that we do whatever we can in order to resource and create the vision that we have. So knowing what grassroots fundraising is, knowing that people from multiple different backgrounds, class backgrounds, ethnicities, citizenships, give, building a network of support and also a network of accountability and remembrance that we have this legacy of giving, that we have this present legacy of donating as communities of colors, as white allies, as allies of multiple different sorts. What does that look like for creation of building a station or funding and sustaining not-for-profits? So the political importance of grassroots fundraising. How you raise money and how you spend it is important. So who are you asking to do the solicitation, to let people know about the work that you're doing? Are those, I guess we believe that the people who you're working on behalf of or with should be the same individuals who you're training up, who you're providing support to, who you're saying you have leadership potential or you have leadership qualities because you have been doing other things that have been connected to our work, that you should also be, you're also the right and the best person to ask people for donations, because it's not a separate piece, right? The same reason why you want to start your own radio station, the same reason why you want to build a community so that there are voices that's reflective of individuals and longtime community members, is the same reason why you're going to be asking someone to invest financially in the startup of your station, right? When grassroots fundraising is integrated into the programs that's being created, the series, the conversations, as a station or as a not-for-profit, you have more control over the money and how that's used. When you write a grant, there's restrictions or there's reports that are given out. When you participate, when you create a grassroots fundraising program, you're accountable, and this moves on to the next point, to the community you serve. The folks who are giving you the contributions are then more likely to be invested and have ownership over that station, more invested in the long-term and short-term health and viability of your station. So then you are then responsible to making sure, not that these folks are quote-unquote happy, because that's very much like a capitalist society of like, we want everyone to be happy. It's more like we want to make, like as a developing station or as a current station or as a not-for-profit, how are you making sure that you're staying true to the values you you reached out to your communities and told them you shared. How are you staying responsible and accountable to the folks who are donating money, time, and the time again, or making even a one-time contribution, so that you're not falling off track, and that anytime they give you money, you know that you can say, we did this with your donation, right? That we continue to serve and produce materials and recordings that match your needs, that match your desires, that inform the public about our own stories. And finally, an importance of grassroots fundraising is an autonomy for our communities to be asked and give. Too often, communities of color, marginalized communities are asked out or not given room at the decision-making table to participate in the financial health of creations of institutions or not-for-profits. Having a grassroots fundraising program allows people, no matter what their class background, no matter what their income level is to participate and have an ownership and like a stake in this. So, what are your principles for fundraising? Sorry about that. So the principles in fundraising include, as I mentioned earlier, staying mission-driven. So as you create your station, what is it that you want your community to benefit out of? What is it that you're trying, what is it that makes you different? What is it that you're trying to share? What stories are you trying to communicate? How is that, as your focal point, reaching out and being strategic in developing relationships with supporters, with donors, with similar stations, with different stations, but who share your vision in storytelling and reflecting the communities that you're a part of, and not allowing corporations or media moguls to hold a dominant narrative, but the fact that you want to change that narrative of your communities. Also, how can you create a diverse team of folks who are invested in your work, who are invested in supporting you to share those stories? How are you getting them involved in resourcing for that work? And then, what are your different streams of income? When you're relying on one stream of income, then if by any chance that is if by any chance, and knock on wood, that you lose that type of funding, does that mean that you have to shut your doors and all that community? And does that mean you have to shut your doors? Having multiple streams of income allows you to, one, be more financially healthy. Two, allows you, especially if you integrate and have a grassroots fundraising program, allows you to have consistent and reliable support from your community and be more reflective and responsive to their needs. So how does this then inform your strategy? So when you're building these relationships with folks, specifically donors, as we talk about grassroots fundraising, how are you connecting with them? What are your values that you have that you will not compromise on, that you want others to jump with you, you want other folks to get amped about, you want other folks to be speaking about? With a diverse team, who is helping you raise money? Are the folks who are most impacted by your work also the people who are going out and acting as an ambassador of your station, or acting as donors of your organization? So the second goal we shared is that we shared, me and Leah shared earlier, is one of the strategies that small to mid-sized nonprofits and also starting up or small stations can employ is a monthly sustainer program. So what is a monthly sustainer program? It's a commitment by individuals to give on a recurring basis. It's exactly what you read it as. It's someone who gives monthly. It's consistent support from your supporters. And this can be anyone and everyone, right? So this comes, started like in terms of how do you prospect for who can be potential monthly sustainers. It's everyone who is a paid staff or non-paid staff, anyone who has an investment, who supports, who likes your work. So that's like your family member, your colleagues, your listeners, your advertisers, your ally station supporters, anyone in your community, folks that want to support you, folks that you want to build intentional relationship with. So Grassroots Fundraising, an additional point I want to say that the asking for money is not the start and end of the relationship. It's a beginning point or just one point. As we'll move forward, we'll go into like how do you maintain that relationship with folks, how do you maintain that relationship and how you just articulate your vision so that people are constantly being moved in order to give and moved to ask others to give. So the strategic importance of a sustainer program, a monthly sustainer program, which individuals who give consistently. So a monthly sustainer program supports in creating an identity for your not-for-profit or your station that engages your base of supporters, your members, your volunteers. So this means that your identity can be expanded, can be talked upon, can be talked by your stakeholders, by the people who are financially invested in your station, but also there are folks who maybe at the time cannot financially invest, but love the work that you are doing and want to support. You do not need money in order to be a fundraiser. You need the passion and the clarity of what it is you want to get done, what it is your vision is, and then you build on that. You build and you leverage your resources and your relationships with folks, and you ask. So another importance of the sustainer program is that it's an opportunity for others to become versed in articulating and communicating your radio station impact as it relates to them personally. So how did they get involved, or how did they come to hear about your station? And on a macro level, like how are you as you develop or already have a station changing or interrupting dominant narratives that are harmful to your communities that you serve? How are you challenge those narratives? And also, how are you not just being on the defensive? How are you being on offensive, and how are you shaping the context of stories that are coming out? How are you providing opportunities for people to discuss and reimagine what your communities, what they go through, how they live, how they impact the world looks like? Finally, a sustainer program gives you the opportunity and the ability to have a consistent, unrestricted income. And this is really beneficial for many 501c3s and stations that are developing, because unrestricted income means not that you are not accountable to anyone, because we know what I mentioned earlier, you are accountable to those who donate to you because they share your values, right? But when I say unrestricted income, unrestricted means that you're not the same way that foundations have deliverables that you need to constantly reporting on. Like, there is none of that with a sustainable or grassroots fundraising. Who you need to be accountable to and how you fulfill your mission and how you fulfill your work, you need to relay that to your donors, to your supporters, right? So some more grassroots fundraising strategies that I won't be able to go to in depth, but wanted to let folks know of is House Party Series. And I say series because it's like a campaign where everyone knows that together that their one house party is part of a larger plan to support and amplify the work that you're doing. Participate in existing community events. So here in Oakland, I know there are folks coming in this call from the East Coast, West Coast, and Midwest. Here in Oakland, where GIFT is based, though we're a national organization, there is an Oakland Run-In Festival or Marathon, and many grassroots organizations participate that as a way to, one, celebrate Oakland where their communities are living in, and also use it as a fundraising opportunity because the structure, the infrastructure is there, right? What they need to do is gather up their members, their staff, their family members, their partners, and loved ones in order to raise money. But they can use that as a platform, an existing platform, and not create their own new campaign around that. Bowl-a-thon has always been a very fun and exciting team sport, and fundraising is definitely a team sport. You can look to FIERCE, F-I-E-R-C-E, and so fiercenyc.org as a really great model. They're an LGBTQ youth of color-led organization in New York that does work around ending police brutality and gentrification in the West Village, and also developing queer youth of color leaders to be agents of change within their own communities. They have a current bowl-a-thon and have had 4 or 5, I'm not sure, bowl-a-thons that have been very successful, and I have a great model folks can learn from in terms of engaging multiple people in the asking and also donating to their organization. Finally, any creative and yet mission-aligned team fundraising activity that communicates the radio station's impact and mission is a grassroots fundraising strategy that you can employ. Every station's mission or how you want to connect with your community is different, so take some risk. But as long as that risk is in line with who you're trying to engage and what your values are, then it's sky's the limit for your strategy. So I just want to spend a few moments on finally how to communicate your message and your impact. And we can go much deeper in this in the questions. Thank you, Leah, for posting it up. We can go much deeper in the maybe through questions, or folks can email me later after the webinar for more conversation on communicating your message. But in order to communicate your message and impact, one, have consistent communication with your supporters and donors, right? So this doesn't mean you need to be communicating with them every day, but quarterly, monthly, make sure there is something physical, electronically, Facebook, social media, some presence you have, some type of conversation. And communicating doesn't mean you're talking at them all the time. You're also giving them ways to interact with your station, with your organization. That's not just financially, but that's maybe signing a petition, that's maybe taking a picture. That's all these creative ways that you already know and have that talks and amplifies the work that you're doing. Provide numbers and narrative when you're communicating about your message and impact. What does a certain amount of dollars will be able to do for your station? What can that actually manifest? So folks have something tangible, right? In addition to the overall vision, what is something they can see reflected? And it doesn't mean you have to give them a gift or an incentive to participate. It just means like what can you show them that you have done with their donation and their gifts? Like how have you manifested that vision that you have in place? Include different opportunities for your stakeholders and invested people to speak out about your work. So again, this can be house party. This can be like asking friends, colleagues to create their own fundraising event, because it might not be something that one as a paid staff or even a volunteer in developing your station that you can manage, you have capacity to do. So it's about allowing other folks to do that. And then finally, do not treat your donors and your supporters the same, especially if you are developing a monthly sustainable program. Like the correspondence should be different. It's like you should be recognizing people's contributions financially or otherwise, and let them know that I recognize that your participation is different. It's not any less meaningful, however you ended up here, but I want to recognize how you've come and how we like to see you grow and participate and deepen your investment. So I'll leave time for questions. Yes, I will leave time for questions right now, and I know some questions may come around capacity, so I can answer that, but any questions that folks have, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Thank you so much, Francois. That was totally amazing. I think gave a really great overview, not only of the strategy for fundraising, but the ideas behind it and what's so important about fundraising for our movements, in our communities. And I think that this is a perfect overview of the kind of fundraising we're thinking about, at least when I have the vision of people starting their own media outlets and community radio stations. So thank you so much for that. And like you said, now is definitely the time for questions. If people have them, just you can put them in the chat box. Feel free to put stuff out there. Any questions that people have about fundraising or even about GIFT or the work that Laurene does would be totally welcome. I know that maybe, Laurene, while we're waiting for people to type their questions in, is there any other resources or things that people can look up through GIFT that you wanted to let people know about, or ways that they can connect with your organization to get more information and more support?
Yeah. So the conference that I spoke earlier about is the biannual conference. That's going to be happening next year, and we actually start preparing for it now. So it actually gives people the opportunity, of course, to be submitting their RFPs or just like workshop proposals that they have in mind. So if that's something that folks are interested in, especially if folks want to build a community and network regionally or nationally with different radio stations that are in process of developing or already developed but are just growing out, you definitely are going to have the opportunity to do so starting in the next couple of months. The conference will be in August of 2014 in Baltimore, so hopefully that's nearby. Some folks or people can start grassroots fundraising strategies in order to make their way over to the conference.
Great, thank you so much. So I do see one question here. I guess people are wondering more about tools and strategies, and/or strategies about setting up membership drive, and if you've been involved in that kind of thing. So I guess with radio stations, one of the common models is to have a membership model where you're pairing kind of financial support with democratic governance structure. And so if you have any experience working on something like that.
Actually, pretty similar to the monthly sustainer program. Folks can contact Common Dreams, yes, and Waging Nonviolence. They're both news outlet source they're both independent news outlet source, but they had member sustainer drives where they connected resources. So they connected like a particular resource, like a book or novel or just ongoing support or different materials. They connected that to their monthly sustainer program. And created like one of them created a membership drive. So the platform, but the way they spoke about it was that they had a campaign goal that lasted for 6 weeks to have 50 people sign up to be members of their news outlets. So that means as members they would donate monthly, which is like part of the monthly sustainer program, but they would also receive, like, the first 25 receive this incentive of a book that they felt was really critical for folks learning about housing injustices, but also how communities of color were taken back and stepping up to the plate of demanding their rights, and how they spoke about like Know Your Rights clinics. So that combination of like providing people incentives and also tying that to a monthly sustainer is my best guess in terms of how a membership drive can work for radio specific. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And just to let folks know, I've just been putting a couple of the links for some of the organizations and events that Francois was speaking about. So you can see one there. Common Dreams is in there, and you can check out more about them on their website. And then I've also included a link that goes directly to, you can see the grassrootsfundraising.org is the GIFT website, and that's up on the slides. But then I've also included the direct link for the Money for Our Movements conference, and so people can find out more about that. And there's a variety of things there, looking at I guess some of the stuff that's up there is from the one that happened last year, but you'll definitely see a lot of information and chances to get involved with the one that's upcoming that you spoke about. It's in Baltimore next year. So that's still there. Like the registration hasn't opened for that. That's still all upcoming, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's still upcoming, but the registrations will be open in a few months. But you can see some of the materials and handouts from last year's conference. And also, if folks sign up for our e-newsletters, get the first information about when the conference workshops are going to be able to submit and when registration will be open.
Okay, great, thank you. And are there any other questions out there, or Francois, do you have any final remarks that you wanted to add in there?
I would say a final remark. I'm not sure if Aaliyah had a last question. If you do, I would say my remark, but definitely ask, if you have a question, let me know. So fundraising is a team sport. One person cannot do it alone. It's not as fun that way, especially too. So fundraising can be fun. It's definitely something that has a lot of trauma and hesitancy around. But it can also be a place of real growth for people and real authentic relationships that can be built on knowing, not so much knowing people's class and background, class and income is from, but having this open conversation about money and what does it mean that even as working class, poor, middle class folks, or even folks that have access to wealth through inheritance, can redistribute it in a way that supports our visions and our values. And that knowing that, going back to the charts, that people are donating every day, no matter their income levels, and they're donating because they have a belief, not this buy into you need to give me a gift in order for me to donate something. People are constantly, or actually, I shouldn't even say that. It's more think about the last time you were asked to give, and how that made you feel when it was someone you cared for or an organization you cared for. And then think about the last time you gave. How did that make you feel? That's the feeling that people have every time they give. And when they give to you, know that that is the same feeling that they have, right?
Great, thank you. And I just see one more question here, and I'm not sure if you can speak to that as well, but about the foundation directory. And I know that there is a foundation directory, but I believe you have to buy a membership to it. But I'm not sure if you know of other public foundation directories or other ways people can look for that, even though that might be outside of the scope of grassroots fundraising.
Foundation Center, they have online libraries that has gift publications and also a directory. There is a membership you buy into, but I think there's also some free classes that folks can take. So you should just type in Foundation Center and find your nearest Foundation Center for more information about foundations. Okay.
Great, thank you. So I don't see any other questions that I can see here that I haven't answered directly in the chat box. If anyone, great. So the information is up here, and then it's okay, I think, for people to contact you as well, Laurene, at Gift about different things. And then I think you guys also have upcoming online trainings and stuff that people should definitely take a look at. I would really encourage people to check out the Gift website. It's really awesome and has tons of really amazing information and tons of other resources and ways to plug into the work that they're doing, which is really so necessary and so excellent. And yeah, it's really inspiring work. And so if there aren't any further questions, we're right at the end of the hour here, so I guess I'll just thank everyone for joining us this afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the country. This has been a great webinar, and huge thanks again to you, Francois, for sharing this knowledge with us, and to all the applicants at Prometheus as we kind of ramp up for people getting their license, or applying anyway for their licenses. And I hope that this helped folks out. Again, you can always check out an archive of this, like a recording of this webinar on the Prometheus website, and there's Laurene's contact info is up there, so feel free to get in touch with either of us about any questions you have about this webinar, or about other, of course, with me about other trainings with Prometheus. So thanks again to everyone. This has been great, and good luck to everyone. Yep, for who are applying for licenses this fall. Thanks.